We're here with one of our dear friends, Mr. Conservative of the United States Senate, Ted Cruz. Senator, how are you, sir?
Mark, I'm doing terrific. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, but I wanted to ask you a couple of questions here. Do you think Kamala Harris is going to get away with running a Joe Biden rope-a-dope campaign with the media telling us what she thinks, with the media covering up for her flip-flops, with the media lying on her behalf? Do you think she's going to get away with denying the American people access to her brain?
I think that is exactly what they're trying. It is the Joe Biden basement strategy. Look, they've spent 4 years with Biden locked in a basement, unable to tie his shoes. And from their view, it worked successfully in 2020. They're going to try it again with Kamala. It's been now over a week since she's been the presumptive nominee. She does no interviews. She gives no real speeches. What does she do? She reads from teleprompters. They're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars in TV ads, and they're counting on the corporate media to do a multi-billion-dollar PR campaign. And I got to tell you, as cynical as that is, it is dangerous as hell.
I thought we lived in a democracy. The least democratic process that I've ever seen, that I think this country's ever experienced in the nomination of a presidential candidate has taken place. The brooming of 14.5 million voters in the Democrat Party, the installing of her. They've already had virtual voting. She's already their nominee before they even get to the convention. There's no open convention. There's no debate. There's no challengers. For somebody who, 4 weeks ago was thought to be a dunderhead and incompetent who would drag down the party, now she's a superhero. And by acclamation, if you will, or by coronation, she's their nominee. They can't get away with this without a lying, corrupt media. Isn't that correct?
It's absolutely correct, but we have a lying, corrupt media. They are completely on the team, that they are driving the parade forward. And listen, that is everything the Democrats say, everything the media says, sadly, is a Freudian projection, and they're doing the opposite. We've spent 5 years with these knuckleheads crowing about how they are defending democracy. And yet, when suddenly they realize, the person that our voters voted for is going to lose in November, what do? Throw him out unceremoniously and install someone who not a single Democrat primary voter voted for to be president. 0 votes. But democracy doesn't matter for them. What matters is power. And by the way, Mark, they would have left Joe Biden in there. They were perfectly happy to leave him as commander-in-chief. They don't care if the president is senile and unable to defend this country. The only reason they lost faith in him is because the voters saw that debate and they realized we're going to lose. And then it was like Joe Pesci and Goodfellas showing up at the bar, looking around, going, "Oh, no, man," and realizing he wasn't going to be a made man, but they were putting 2 rounds at him.
Ted Cruz, they're trying the same rope-a-dope, as you point out, with Kamala Harris. She has a horrendous record of incompetence. She has a horrendous policy agenda that is radical. It's even outside the Bernie Sanders mainstream. She has said things that are preposterous, that are thoroughly stupid, and now she's reversing course on a number of these views, but not speaking about them. She has some paid campaign guy put out a statement, she supports fracking now. And so this is what it's going to be. You point out hundreds of millions of dollars in paid ads, billions of dollars in in-kind free media contribution, attack Trump, rely on one debate. Isn't this really an attack on the American people? They are preventing the American people from casting a knowledgeable, informed vote about her.
So, of course it is, and it is fundamentally dishonest. Nobody in the media cares. Nobody in the media wants to ask her a single difficult question. You're right that they are trying to gaslight every voter. So they claim, first of all, she was not the border czar. For 4 years, she's been the border czar, but suddenly we have chaos at the southern border, and suddenly they pretend that doesn't exist. So Kamala Harris is not the border czar. My opponent in Texas, Colin Allred, is running away from border czar Kamala Harris like he's terrified. On top of that, as you note, she's campaigned for years on ending fracking. Suddenly she doesn't want to end fracking anymore. It just magically disappeared, and the media, like servile sheep, just bleat. And I don't know if you saw the news that just broke a few minutes ago. So yesterday, they announced that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, they were taking the death penalty off the table for him and reaching a plea agreement with the mastermind of 9/11. Just a few minutes ago, they broke the news that the Defense Department revoked that plea agreement because the pushback was so severe as firefighters and cops and patriots and everyone who was horrified pushed back. They reversed course instantaneously.
All right, hold on one second, Senator. They've been putting out the line, including Kamala Harris and Biden and their spokesman, idiots. We don't have the power to stop this. The President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States always had the power to stop this, didn't they? Yep. They just got caught again.
They did, and understand they did it because Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and the apparatchiks said, we must close Guantanamo. It was a political mandate, just like the political mandate to pull out of Afghanistan by the anniversary of 9/11, and it trumped everything else. It led to the disaster in Afghanistan. Here, they're so close to an election, they just decided to run away. But to be clear, Kamala wants to do this just after Election Day.
Senator Ted Cruz, you and 47 other Republican senators, all but Rand Paul, signed a letter to this president demanding that he stop slow walking or blocking altogether critical weapon systems to the state of Israel. And there they are surrounded by the terrorists. There Iran is threatening to unleash hell. So is Hezbollah. I feel like this little Israel is really by itself. Congress, Republicans, are trying to get it the support it needs. The Biden administration keeps attacking Bibi Netanyahu publicly, doesn't say a damn thing about the leader of Iran and so forth and so on. What do you make of this insanity?
Well, sadly, this is the most anti-Israel administration we have ever seen. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have undermined Israel from day one, from the moment they were sworn in. At every step, they have sought to delegitimize and undermine Israel. And at the same time, they have flooded cash to Israel's enemies. I'll tell you something that I've said before, but it is deeply disturbing. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are the greatest friends the Ayatollah Khamenei has ever had, and they are the greatest friends Hamas
Amen.
and Hezbollah have ever had. Now, that's a shocking statement, but you can back it up when you understand, as you know very well, Mark, that they have flowed over $100 billion to the Ayatollah, and the Ayatollah, in turn, provides over 90% of the funding to Hamas and over 90% of the funding to Hezbollah. In a very, very real sense, the death squads on October 7th were paid for by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris with the active acquiescence of every congressional Democrat who looked the other way and refused to stand up for Israel. And that includes Chuck Schumer in the Senate, and it includes my Democrat opponent who's running against me, Colin Allred, who's been a rubber stamp for every anti-Israel policy from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
And even today, they talk about these defensive weapons they're going to give Israel. It seems to me if Iran or its surrogates hit Tel Aviv, then Israel needs to hit Tehran. I mean, Iran has gone pretty much unscathed from all the horror, the brutality, the genocide, and all the rest that it's created. And this administration, this regime, doesn't turn the screws on Iran, as you point out. They're funding Iran. And then Israel, as the Wall Street Journal editorial points out, Israel cannot do what Joe Biden is demanding it to do, or it will destroy itself.
No, that's exactly right. From the beginning, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have been trying to get Israel to stand down and not attack. Literally on October 7th, while the death squads were still murdering innocent civilians, raping women and children, the Biden-Harris State Department tweeted out on October 7th, Israel must not retaliate. There must be no military response. I called that out at 3 a.m, and within minutes they deleted it because it was indefensible. The next day, October 8th, Tony Blinken, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, the Secretary of State, tweeted out again the same damn thing. He said, I just talked with the Turkish foreign minister. We agreed Israel must not retaliate. There must be no military response. Again, I called it out. Again, they deleted it within minutes. And every day since then, what have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris been saying to Israel? Stop killing terrorists. Well, you know what? I say the opposite. keep killing terrorists until you have utterly destroyed Hamas. And I got to say, this last week was a very bad week to be an anti-Israel, anti-American terrorist, and a very good week if you want to see freedom-loving people prevail as Israel took out some of the leading terrorists on the face of the planet.
Including one that was responsible for the death of 241 Marines. Shouldn't Netanyahu get the Medal of Freedom Award? By the way, Senator Cruz, to your point on the reversal on this plea deal for the 9/11 terrorists, it says here in the New York Post, the Defense Secretary Austin revoked the plea deals that would have spared the death penalty for the accused mastermind of 9/11 and two alleged accomplices. In a memo, he announced that he relieved the official responsible for signing off on the plea agreements from authority and that he assumed control of the convening authority for military commissions. Senator Cruz, for the last 24 hours, the vice president, the president, and their spokespeople, Kirby and the others, have said they had no power as president of the United States, as vice president of the United States, to stop this deal, when they always had power. Do they ever stop lying to the American people in this administration, ever?
Sadly, they do not. As you know, every week I do a podcast, Verdict with Ted Cruz. I do it 3 days a week. Today's podcast is entirely on this topic. It is lighting them up for giving a sweetheart deal to the mastermind of 9/11. In the podcast, I play Karine Jean-Pierre saying, we had nothing to do with it. We had no power. I play Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor, saying, no, we had nothing to do with it. And I lay out, this is a lie. The reason this happened is because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris demanded that Guantanamo be shut down before the end of his presidency, and it's that political mandate that caused it to happen. And look at what they did. They spent a day getting pounded, quite rightly, as people were outraged. And then at 8 p.m. on a Friday, taking out the trash, they very quietly try to make it go away. And you know what? The media is going to ignore it. I promise you this is not going to lead the ABC News tomorrow. It's just simply going to disappear. These facts are no longer operative. These are not the droids you're looking for.
100%. Now, Senator Cruz, you have a hell of a race in Texas, and we on the Mark Levin show, the Levinites out here, we do not want you to lose. We want you to win, and we want you to win comfortably. So tell us a little bit about the race, and tell us how we can help you all across the country here.
Well, Chuck Schumer has been explicit. I am his number one target in the entire country. They are flooding cash at me. My opponent, Colin Allred, is a left-wing Democrat. His first 4 years in the House, he voted 100% with Nancy Pelosi. He has been a rubber stamp for border czar Kamala Harris's open borders. He has undermined law enforcement. He has undermined police officers. And he has been a left-wing vote, and yet he's the top Democrat fundraiser challenger in the country because he's coming after me. Every radical leftist in New York, in Chicago, and San Francisco, they go online and they give to my opponent. And I got to tell you, the last public poll in this race, Mark, showed it as a 3-point race. The poll before that showed it as a 4-point race. That's why Schumer's putting millions into it. It's why George Soros is coming after me and putting millions into it. And the way we're fighting back is patriots across Texas and all across the country. They've been going to our website, tedcruz.org, making contributions, giving $25, $50, $100, some more than that. And it is the patriots standing up saying, listen, we've got to have people in the Senate who've got backbone, who are willing to fight, who will defend the Constitution, who are not afraid of the radicals and the Marxists trying to take this country out. That's why they're coming after me, is they don't want someone leading the fight. And so your listeners who love America and love the Constitution, they're going to tedcruz.org, going right now to tedcruz.org and making a contribution. It has an enormous impact. And listen, if you can give $5 or $10, that's fantastic. Maybe you can give 100, but maybe there's one person out there who can give 1,000 or 2,000 or even 5,000. That's how we fight back against Schumer. That's how we fight back against Soros. That's how we pull our country back from the brink.
Every time Ted Cruz is on, ladies and gentlemen, we want to give him all the help we can. So I encourage you to go to tedcruz.org, tedcruz.org. Give if you can, please. Help him out. We really need to keep this seat. It's very, very important. I can't believe we would wake up on Election Day and we'd have another left-wing Democrat in place of our dear friend Ted Cruz representing the state of Texas. Well, you know what? We have to fight these people. And he's being outspent like 8-1, 5-1. So anything you can do is very important. TedCruz.org. We'll keep it up on all our social sites. And Ted, God bless you, my friend, and keep up the good fight. You're doing terrific.
God bless you, Mark.
Be well. He's also the salt of the earth. He's a really, really good guy. And he really loves the country.